Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and Miniature video. In this video, we're going to continue on with my Napoleonic project update. And in this update, we're going to show off a couple of Dutch and Belgian cavalry, as well as some Brunswick troops that I had just finished. Okay, now these cavalry units that I have that I'm going to be showing you, they've been done for a few days now. I mentioned them like 3 days ago that I was going to do a video when I finished the Brunswick troops, which I started, I think, 4 days ago. And so you and I will be amazed at how many Brunswick troops I was able to do in the course of 4 days. Okay, so and that's really not a full 4 days. One of those days I didn't work on them at all. So it's like Thursday I took a break from doing any painting at all. So actually I only assembled them and cleaned them, washed them, and prepped them by putting them on popsicle sticks, and that was all done in 1 day. And then 2 later days, yesterday and today, I painted them, and I am really proud of what I've done. Okay, so we'll go ahead and show you that. But right here, this is the 5th Belgian Light Dragoons. Okay, and you got the green coats, and gray pants and things. These 2 cavalry units that I'm about to show you are the epitome of why I like to paint Napoleonics. Or I should say, not even that. I should say why I actually got into Napoleonic wargaming. Infantry units, they're all pretty much in uniform. They all wear the same thing. You never really get any variation. Each nation has their own uniforms. You got some variation with epaulets, or maybe pant colors, or collars and cuffs might be different. But the uniforms are usually uniform in each nation. But when it comes to cavalry units, it seems like every single cavalry unit has a unique paint scheme or unique uniform. Different types of collars, different types of turnbacks or blankets, or their shakos or helmets, or straps. The colors of everything, the plumes, what color all the plumes are, horse colors. It just seems like every single one of the cavalry units are completely different. Well, this is the 5th Belgian Light Dragoons at Quatre Bras and Waterloo. All right, so let me go ahead and get out my next unit. And this unit here is the 6th Dutch Hussars. And I always make a joke. I always go, Hussar. They're the Hussars. But no, they're the Hussars, which you can the first clue that lets you know that they're Hussars is they have these extra dolmens and police that they carry, which are basically this fur-lined jacket that they wear over their shoulder. One of the benefits of wearing that jacket over their left shoulder is to absorb sword slashes. It's a fur coat, basically, that they wear over their shoulder. And in a sword fight on a horse, think of it like a shield. The sword will hit that coat, and the majority of the attack will be absorbed. So that's a big advantage for hussars. One reason why they wear it. Plus, it's part of their uniform and style. And sometimes they will, in the colder weathers or rain, they'll actually wear the jacket itself. Okay. You'll notice that these guys have like a light blue jacket, or police coat that they're wearing, and then they'll have a dark blue pants, and then dolman itself will actually be a light blue, and then it has like gold thread and stuff like that. And that's one hussar unit. If you look around all the other Napoleonic countries and units, you might not ever find another color combination like this. It's really what inspires me to paint different units and to learn about the different units and things like that. But you notice like this musician there, he's wearing a red jacket, you know, and so this is the 6th Dutch Hussars, which was also at Quatre Bras and Waterloo. All right, so now let me go ahead and get my next unit. All right, now these are my Brunswick Avant-Garde. You'll notice that these 3 bases here all have the black or dark gray, the black jackets and pants, and these are the Jaegers of the Avant-Garde, and they have the light gray, the light gray uniforms. Now, as you know, in my game that I'm writing, I'm making each of these bases approximately 100 men. So this is approximately 600 men. Now that number varies up and down, you know, by battalion, etc. But that's kind of the target that I'm shooting for, is a 600-man battalion, 6 bases. Is your medium battalion. Now there are smaller battalions, there are larger battalions. Okay, but now this is Brunswick, and most of the German companies I've noticed are not 100 men. They're like 150 men, and approximately. And it varies due to combat losses and, you know, recruiting and stuff like that. So you can't ever have exactly the right number. But 150 is the target number. And this unit specifically, the Avant-Garde, had 4 companies. It did not have 6 companies like this. It had 4 companies. But 4 companies at 150 men apiece does come out to about 600 men. So they had 2 companies of the Jaegers and then 2 companies of the line as part of the Avant-Garde. And they're very distinct with their Australian, I call it Australian. It's actually Austrian, I think, Austrian style Jaeger hat with the folded side. So they're very distinct in that. You'll also notice there's no standard. There is a leader here and there is a musician there. I decided just to split them up like that. But in game purposes, it's going to act like a normal battalion with 6 bases, just like any other battalion. These companies are not going to operate independently. That's not the case. Okay, so this unit here is the Avant-Garde. You'll notice a couple of things about all these battalions I'm about to show you, but their uniforms are not black. The uniforms are something like a German tanker uniform. Yeah, their uniforms are actually, here it is, German tank crew. And it, as you can see, it's like a really dark gray. And if you look carefully at these guys, you can tell they're not black. They're actually gray. And fabric that's black, you know, in the field and worn and stuff like that is never going to be black. It's going to be faded slightly. And that's why I wanted to use that. All right, so that's one of the Brunswick contingent. Let me go ahead and show you the next battalion. Okay, now this battalion here is what's called the Lieb Battalion, or Life Battalion, or Guard Battalion. So you would see, you might see it in a variety of different text, But the Lieb Battalion is basically the Brunswick Guard. It's filled with veterans from Spain or foreign wars. And so these guys are all very experienced troops. Now, if you remember, the previous unit was called the Avant Garde. They are, which is advanced guard. Think of them more like the Young Guard in the French. They were more like skirmishers and sharpshooters and stuff like that, but still part of the guard. And then this is the Life Guard, like the Duke's personal guard. You'll notice there's 6 battalions still. I'm using the gray uniform. They got the blue stripes and collars. But one thing you'll notice is this is an Old Glory bag, right? Old Glory. All these figures today that I'm showing you are Old Glory 15s, and this bag was provided with an officer, a drummer, and a standard bearer, where I believe that the Lieb Guard did not carry a standard, even though you can clearly see that Lieb Guard is carrying a standard. And I also believe that they didn't use the drum. I believe they used the bugle, because the guard battalions are usually organized like a light battalion, and light battalions didn't carry standards. But now, having said that, my line battalions, which I have over here, and I'm going to show you in just a second, they carry 2 standards, and the Fighting 15 flag sheet that I got gave me the 6 flags I need for my line battalions, but it also gave me 2 additional flags that, and this was Fighting 15's side text. They said there was a couple of additional flags that they didn't know what units they were on, and not even sure if they were carried at Waterloo, but they were in the inventory, so they went ahead and printed them on the flag sheet. So I basically took one of those 2 flags, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to put it on this Lieb Guard unit because the guy's carrying a standard, and maybe they did carry a standard, and it'll just make the unit look sexier. So I went ahead and did it. I still think the unit looks really good. Maybe there's a couple of flaws with it, but that's okay. I'm not going to cry over that kind of stuff. I still think these flags the flag looks good, and the miniatures look good, and all of that. Now you'll notice, like specifically on the officers, but also on the other troops, I did like color their cords. And it's another super dark gray, but when you put the gray on gray, it kind of makes them stand out just enough to make you see that there were cords, because the cords are actually the same color as the tunic, but the buttons were actually a lighter color. So the buttons, or the little ribbon, the ends of the cords should stand out more. Yeah. I know it's kind of hard to visualize a lot of detail on a model that's just black on black on black on black. So you got to put some highlights in there with maybe some dark grays. All right, let me show you the next unit. All right, now this is the 1st Battalion, 1st Line Battalion. You'll notice the red collars, but you'll also notice the flags, right? These 1st Battalion line flags had like silver fringe around the outer edge of the flags. You'll notice there's no black in the flags. It's all just blue and yellow. And the pom-poms, you'll notice that the line had blue on the top, and the light has the yellow on the top, so they're reversed. So this obviously is a line battalion. There's something about this battalion I wanted to point out. Oh, yeah. Unlike the British, where I had put both flags on the same command base, I decided it would look better, or I thought it would look better. This is kind of an experiment. It would look better if the two standard bearers were one on each base, and I put them back to back, and it looks really good. I think that looks really good. And because I had two drummers and two officers, I went ahead and just made two command stands. But as you can see, I took one of the flags and I offset it. So this one is in the number 3 position, where this one is in the number 2 position. So it looks like the flag in the front is flying off to the right, and the one behind him is a little bit, 10 steps back and 2 steps to the left kind of deal. All right, so this was the 1st battalion, and this is the 2nd battalion. You'll notice the difference in the flags, and I did it again. All the line battalions have one in the front and one in the back. I'm going to do that going forward, even with my British, because I think it'll just look better. If their battalions are supposed to carry 2 flags, I've decided that I'm just going to go ahead and split them by stand. I think it looks better that way anyway. They have the green collars. Yep, that's right. They got the green collars. You'll also note that they should have some green stripes along the sides of their legs as well. Yep, that is the 2nd Line Battalion. Let me go ahead and get another one out. And of course, the 3rd Battalion. The 3rd Battalion has a white as their collars, and the white stripes along the legs. You'll notice the packs on their backpacks are the gray. The pom-poms are blue on the top. The flags. I tried touching up different parts of the flag where the paper would shine through with a little bit of paint. Other than that, I think these guys are really good. And the poses, they come with about 6 different poses, 5 or 6 different poses for the regular foot troops. And I tried mixing them up and varying them on each stand so they all didn't look exactly like and they were in the same pose. Other than that, looks good. That is something I mentioned on my Wednesday live stream. The fact that the light infantry and the line infantry have the same uniforms. But the packs had different poses. So what I did was I mixed the packs from the light and the line infantry to get a larger variety of poses. Not that you don't have to use the light figures in the light battalions and the line figures in the line battalions because the uniforms are exactly the same. All right, so let me go ahead. That was the 3rd Line Battalion. Let's start bringing out some of the light battalions. Okay, now this is the 1st Light Battalion. There is a couple of disappointments that I had with this battalion. With all my light battalions. But I also had, the figures look great, but unfortunately the Old Glory Light Battalion bag comes with standard bearers and drummers as opposed to no standard bearers and just buglers. So basically, in effect, they have pretty much exactly the same thing as the line battalions, just with different poses. So what I did was I took all the standard bearers from all the bags and I picked out the ones that had the longest shafts and I put them in the line battalions. and then I put the ones with the shortest shafts, or the shafts that are choked up, and I put them in, like you can see there's a couple of standard bearers, one in the front, one in the back. They're crisscrossed right now. And instead of giving them the gold standard spear tip, like this guy would have the gold up here on the standard, I went ahead and painted those with the gunmetal. So, actually I'm painting them with steel, and then putting a wash on them, which actually brings them down to what looks like gunmetal. That's what all the bayonets look like, and things like that. So that way they kind of get lost, or they get disguised into the unit. You might, if you're not really looking really close, you might not realize that there's a standard there. You might think he's holding a rifle or something like that, which is the look I'm going for. If I had, now I considered putting like a little streamer on them, or maybe a little banner, a little pennant, or something like that. And I said, no, I'm just going to have them as bare poles. I think it'll look better. So there are no standards on my light battalions. And you'll notice that the plumes are yellow on the top. But other than that, they're pretty much exactly in the same uniforms. And I went ahead and juggled, intermixed the line and the light figures to get a variety of different poses. Not even, I suspected that the light would have a different type of short sword, or they would have a longer bayonet, or maybe a sword and a bayonet, or something like that, where none of the figures, line or light, have any kind of sword. They're all carrying just the bayonet sheath. All right, these guys are I think, looking at them, I think they're the yellow collars. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, and this is the second line battalion. The second line, or light, I should say, light battalion, they're definitely yellow. All right, so I made a little mistake. These guys are actually the yellow. The previous ones are actually buff. They're not yellow. It's a buff color, which kind of looked a little yellow to me on the camera. But either way, I set them up in okay, I got these guys turned around because I was looking at their stripes. I was getting a little confused. But I went ahead and put the bases that have the standards in the front, just so you can kind of see the two standard bearers that I'm using. And you can kind of see they're short, where you can see his hand is choked up really high. And my Brunswick flag would probably never fit on that standard anyway. I would have had to have trimmed the bottom of the flag so that his hand could grip the pole. So it worked out in the end. But again, I painted him with a silver tip instead of a gold tip. And these guys, yeah, they're looking good. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out. The senior officer on the light battalions wore green gloves, right? So he's got a green glove. I know, I think that's weird, but whatever. The officers in the line units are all wearing white gloves. Now, not all officers would wear the green gloves. Some officers would still wear the white gloves. It was just the senior officer would have green gloves. All right, let's see the next battalion. All right, and this one is the 3rd Battalion. Also, I put both standards in the front so you can see. Now, this is not a red stripe. This is salmon, I do believe. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember all my battalion colors, but I think it's a salmon. Actually, this one might be red. The other one might have been salmon, because this kind of looks like a definite red, like a crimson. But either way, one battalion is supposed to be red, and another battalion would be salmon color. Uh, and the salmon is kind of like a red orange. Uh, it's kind of a, it's like a red orange color. All right, and I'm also on all these bases. I'm using the 2.5 Spring Meadow, 2.5 millimeter Statigrass Spring Meadow. I'm starting to, it's growing on me. I'm like grass. It's growing on me. It's starting to make me feel like it's a little bit more rural, a little bit more rustic. The 2 millimeter just seemed like it was too cultivated. So this 2.5, I think, is what I'm going to be using going forward for pretty much everything. Okay, so that was 8 battalions of infantry and the 2 battalions of cavalry, right? That I finished. Now what I'd like to do is take this turntable out, pull the camera back just a little bit, so you can see them all laid out next to each other. All right, guys. So this is the 8 battalions that I did. We got the Avant-Garde, the Lieb Guard, the 3 light battalions, as well as the 3 line battalions. I also have completed the Uhlans and the Hussars, as well as the foot and the horse artillery. I also have the Duke of Brunswick finished. I was planning on using 2 spare Allied generals to represent the line and the light brigade generals, Specht and Riedesel. The artillery still needs its 2 limbers. So what I am waiting for are Brunswick drivers and riders for the limbers, because I already have the limbers. And then also I have on order from Minifig some Brunswick officers. So I plan to just go ahead and paint those 2 up, as well as the 2 limbers, and then the Brunswick contingent will be 100% complete. I'm very happy about that. I can set the Brunswick off to the side until I get those generals, and I can move on to maybe another contingent that I need to finish, like the Dutch Belgians or Hanover Landwehr or something. I probably, if there was a little bit more work to be done on these Brunswicks, I don't think I would have attempted 8 battalions at one time. Luckily, they have a solid single color uniform. Their boots, their pants, their jacket, their backpack, their ammo pouch, and their shakos are all the dark gray. The shakos I did paint with a different dark gray. I did paint the backpacks with a different dark gray, but they were all pretty much dark gray. So if I made any mistakes or missed a spot or something like that, it would be disguised by the fact that everything is pretty much dark gray. I actually painted their cross straps a dark brown, but as you can probably see when you were looking at the video, you really don't even see that. They are supposed to be like almost perfectly blended with their uniforms, so it might have been better just to do a dry brush with some lighter gray or something and then allow it to just be like that. But that was okay. So because they're all pretty much the same except for maybe these guys, that helped the time for me to do these figures. If they had blue jackets and white pants, or if they had red jackets and gray pants, or something like that, it probably and then black boots and then black shakos and then maybe a brown backpack or something like that, it would have taken me a little bit more time to do 8 battalions. I probably would have got frustrated. So I think 4 battalions is about the most I can do at any one time, to be honest. Yeah, it's about 4 battalions. So I don't plan to do any more 8 battalion units. Not going to happen. The Nassau, maybe, because they were all green, like green pants, green jackets. But some of them had gray pants, and they're large units. So I actually did do three large battalions, and 1 small Jaeger battalion with my Nassau, and that was okay. 4 battalions, I can deal with that. But when you start looking at 8 battalions, yeah, I'm not going to do that ever again. All right, guys. Now, when I get the rest of the Brunswick finished, mainly the 2 generals and the limbers, I'll be sure to lay out all the Brunswick, the battalions, the artillery, the cavalry, and everything, so you can see the entire Brunswick contingent in its glory. But right now, I'm going to move on to some other part of. I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. All right, I'll see you in the next update.